Hey y'all, it's K Divine. I was just kind of reminiscing and contemplating about like my past job experience, and because I've talked about the workplace mobbing and all of that, and I was also thinking about like I can only imagine what's happening now because there's so much stuff that's happening in the world politically and all that other stuff, and I know that a lot of those people there were Trump supporters, and a lot of those people really don't got no money, so I can only imagine what they're imagining right now, because I think I've said this before, like whether you voted for Trump or not is your business, but any poor person that voted for Trump got duped because Trump does not care about poor people. Like if you're not the elites, if you're not, the upper echelon of this country, you're gonna get hurt real bad by the stuff that he's been implementing. That's just what it is. um I mean, there's a ton of people right now who, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of different videos of people being like, I voted for him because he said that he wasn't going to tax on overtime, and they're still taxing it. Like, there's a lot of misleading stuff that Trump said in his, that he said in his speeches, and the things that he was going to do. Um, Although, in a way, I don't really feel like he's necessarily lied as far as like, Project 2025, he told us exactly what he was going to do, and that's exactly what he's doing. So, if you didn't read Project 2025 before the election last year, then you were uninformed and you should have did your research. Um, he was very, very clear about what he wanted, and that is exactly what he's doing. So there's no surprise there. But like I said, like a lot of the people that I worked with were Trump supporters, and like I said, a lot of those people, they really don't make that much money. They would, I mean, some people think that because they was making like 80, 85, 100,000 a year, like they thought that that was like a lot of money, and at one point it was, and now it's not. Now it's not that much. I mean, it's much more than what a lot of other people are making, but considering like lifestyle wise, the things that they've become accustomed to, they can't afford to do the same stuff that they used to do. A lot of those people have mortgages, and the taxes on they property could have gone up. It could be a lot of different things that are happening in those people's lives. However, um, I know I've talked about like racism and things of that nature, and it was definitely a racist environment. And I think the reason why, especially because I started that job when I was 22, um, I'll be 30 in January. When I started that job, my mom, she raised me as she always wanted me to be forgiving. And if you have a narcissistic parents have the tendency to teach you to toxic and narcissistic parents and families in general teach you to sweep things under the rug. They teach you and tell you that, yeah, yeah, feelings were hurt, yeah, you might feel some type of way, but it's okay, we have to move on from it. So you have to let it go, and you just have to move on. And that was the mentality that I've had the majority of my life, because it's just like, okay, well, sometimes people are just different. And the way that I saw racism growing up, um I was like, well, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. That's the way I used to really think about it. But now that I've awakened to certain things and systems, and I look at things a lot differently, what I realize is that racism hasn't really changed. It just became more covert. It's become more hidden, more subtle. Um, and I think that a lot of people, because it's not just Caucasian people, it's a lot of people of all different races that may feel like they're not racist because they might associate themselves with some black people, or like, oh well, I've had black people to my house, I have Hispanic family, or they say things like that, and but really deep down inside they don't really like those other people, whatever race they are. They don't or they see them as less than in some way, shape, or form. And you'll see that when people start getting angry. You'll start seeing that when you no longer benefit them, how they truly feel about you, because that's what I experienced at that job. Like, they started treating me some type of way after I stepped down from my manager position. And it was because they wanted to bury the fact that they knew that they were mistreating me and that they were making things harder for me when they were giving other people just like the easy way, the easy ride the whole time. Um a lot of people got passes and people made excuses for them. And it was because, they were, it's kind of like a cult mindset. Like, you got to protect the people that are yours, and everyone else that's an outsider can, they're whatever happens to them happens to them. And like I said, my mom kind of raised me in well, you just have to move on and just forget things and forgive. And well, that's the Christian thing to do. We have to forgive. And you should forgive people. Like, you shouldn't hold on to things that people have done to you. But one thing I've learned over the course of my awakening is what Maya Angelou say: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. If someone is showing you that they don't value you and they don't care about you, then they don't value you and they don't care about you. And I promise you this: they're not going to change. Nothing that you do, nothing that you say is going to change the minds of the people who've already made up their mind about you. And another thing, I'm starting to realize now why a lot of those people wanted to try to make me, especially after I stepped down, wanted to make me feel less than. They wanted to flip the narrative and make it sound like I just couldn't cut it as a manager there. But really what it was that those people weren't giving me the tools that I needed to move forward, to be better. They kept taking my employees from me and they weren't replacing them, causing me to have to work more. And I don't want to sit at the computer all day, and I don't want to be here all night. And I used to sit there and complain all the time and be like, oh, and this and this. And it's like, I don't want to keep having to do that. Just for y'all to be like, they really just wanted to use me to get their numbers up. And, they wanted to use me up until there was nothing left to use. And once I wasn't giving them what they wanted, they wanted to dispose of me. And, I was the butt of their jokes and things of that nature. And I also just realized one other thing right before I started this video was like, the reason why a lot of times people will try to make you feel like you are as smart as you are, they'll try to make you feel like you're not as competent and that you shouldn't be as confident in yourself as you are, is because they know deep down that you have something that they don't possess. They know that you are capable of having a higher position than them. And this is why a lot of times people will try to bury you, because it's like they know how smart you are, they know how talented you are, and they feel like if you get that foot in the door, they can't fathom having someone like you be ahead of them, be above them in any capacity. Because like I've said before, like a lot of these people take their positions at their job as like that's who they are. Like they take those titles very seriously. Well, I'm the director, I'm the vice president, and it's like, outside of this company, outside of this group, whatever, no one knows who you are. That title doesn't matter in the real world, but to them, they feel like that's who they are, and they feel like they're above you. And this is why some of these people will pocket watch you, and they'll try to figure out how much money you make, This is why some of them will, be comparing themselves to you. Like, well, I have a house and, well, they rent. And it's like, well, Susan, you're also 30 years older than me. You were born in the 70s. I was born in the 90s. Or you were born in the 60s. I was born in, like, I don't know what you want me to. It's like, okay, you're a lot older than me. Like, I'm a millennial. Of course I don't have a house right now. The market is terrible. Like, it's like they make up these things to be in competition with you when there really is no competition. You just trying to live your life. And like I said, they can't fathom the idea of you being ahead of them and above them in some way. Like, because some of these people know that one day you are going to be making a lot of money. And some of them know that you are talented, but they don't want you to know that you're talented because, like I said, they themselves refuse to work on themselves. So they know that if you tapped into your real talents, that you would surpass them in life. And a lot of these people are so complacent and comfortable with the things that they have chosen, because at the end of the day, they chose this life. Those people who work in them offices that like to bully their employees, that like to mob people, and they like to reprimand you for little stuff, but let Joe over here get away with whatever they be doing because, oh, well, you just have, they always make excuses. They have selective empathy for people. When you're going through something, like, you could be goddamn in the fucking hospital and they'd be like, okay, well, are you coming in today? But somebody gets it, somebody has a small little fender bender. Joe over here gets into a fender bender and they're like, oh, well, Joe's not gonna be here, he has whiplash, and we just have to make sure that he's okay, and we're gonna let him work from home. He'd be like, but I was in the hospital, I had a whole injury, and you asked me if I was coming in. And it's like, don't even try to figure that stuff out. Those people just don't care about you. Like I said, they have selective empathy. But they also need you. I've told y'all that before. Like, they need you. Like, those people need to feed off of your energy. They need to copy you and try to become you, because they feel like if they can copy you, that they'll somehow be able to do the things that you do and get the things that you get. And that's just not how it works. And a lot of them just don't want to ever believe, like, if for you to figure out who you are and begin to really make moves in this world, be seen, be known. A lot of these people have talked so much shit about you that they can't allow that to happen. They can't allow you to become the person that you're supposed to be, because if they don't do something about it, then they got to eat their words. And a lot of them don't want to have to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to have to admit that they were jealous of you. They don't want to have to admit that some of them did some really heinous things to you. Because, some of them have went around and told their family members and stuff like, oh yeah, there's this person, the collective that works at my job, and oh yeah, well, they're this, and that. So, like, well, we're doing all that we can to try to, build this case up against them, and oh, it's gonna be interesting when it happens. I'm just ready to get this person gone, and like really deep down inside, like, they're excited to see your downfall, and little do they know that they never gonna see it. They're never gonna see it. You might fall, yeah, you definitely might have some hard times, but you're not gonna stay there. And that's what those people weren't betting on or banking on. A lot of people weren't expecting you to get up. A lot of people weren't expecting you to try something else, to try something new. They were expecting you to be like, I'm nothing without those people. I'm nothing with, because that's how they really feel. A lot of people will project things onto you. Like, they literally be trying to tell other people and try to convince you, like, well, you're nothing without this company. And I remember, like, at that job, one of my big bosses, he used to always say things to us, like, and the way that he would speak about the company as if it was the only place to work. And he will say like, well, you're not going to get this at other places. And I'm like, other places have just different ways of doing stuff. No, they may not have the incentive program that you have here, but there are plenty of other places to work. And not to mention, just over the years that I've been there, like I said, I was there for almost 7 years. Watching all of the people who used to work there go on to do other things, like there were plenty of people who left the company and were just fine. So I'm like, this is not the end all be all. I even had to tell one of my coworkers that once when he was going for manager positions, and he didn't get any of them. And I'm not really sure what it was behind that. And it's like he took it really hard. He took it really seriously too, and to the point where he was like drinking really heavy, and he was depressed, and he was angry. And I was just like, you mad over this? And I was like, you have the talent, you have the resume now. I was like, you could literally go anywhere else and go and do that. But it seems like he just felt like he needed to prove a point there. And then when he finally got the position that he wanted, he ended up getting fired. And the road to him getting fired, they gave him a lot of leeway. He was coming in drunk and this was when we were working from home too. So it's like he wasn't even logging in on time because he was so drunk all the time. And my boss was like, oh, I didn't want to have to do, like, the amount of chances that he gave that man are the amount of chances he would not give anyone else. So, I say all this to say things like, a lot of these people, like the selective empathy and all of that, don't take that shit personally anymore, okay? If you gotta cry about it because it upsets you, I totally get that. But just know and understand that a lot of times, these people, they chose the life that they live, and a lot of them don't like the lives that they live. They don't like their spouses. They don't really like their kids. They don't really like the job they have to do. They do it because, that's what they were raised and told to do. But you got to, go to college and get a good paying job and take care of your family. And then you retire at whatever, 70 years old. You live for a few years and then you die. And I mean, a lot of them hate that. They don't really want to go to work every day. That's why they utilize your energy to try to get by. And they try to use your energy to try to move up in this world. And I promise you, every single time they may get somewhere for a little bit, but it's not going to last very long, especially if you're not there. Because as you evolve as a person, they're stagnant. They're doing the same things. This is why they fear your rise, because they know that they aren't moving forward. They know they're not doing anything different or new. And they see that, no matter what it is that you go through, that you learn and you grow and you keep moving forward. And they can't do that. A lot of these people are still doing the same stuff they was doing 20 years ago. Yeah, I go to work. I come home, I drink a couple beers, I eat dinner with my wife, and then we go to bed, and then I wake up and I do it all over again. They don't do anything different. They hang out with the same people. Once in a while, they go to dinner. I remember my ex-boss used to tell me stuff like, oh yeah, well, me and the wife, every once a month we go, have our date night, and usually we just like go to Applebee's. And it's like, that's like the highlight of y'all marriage, is going to Applebee's. Y'all don't do nothing else for real? No, not really. Some of these people, I promise y'all, some of these people married some people out of convenience, and that was a convenience marriage. She wanted a baby, he needed to have a wife. They don't even like each other. But that's a different story for a different day. But you gotta understand, a lot of these people really just don't want to see your rise, because they know that your rise means that they're not as great as they pretend to be. They tell themselves these lies all the time and tell themselves that, oh, I'm just so amazing and I'm so great and look at all that I've accomplished. And then when they compare themselves to you, they really see like, oh, like this person's had a harder life. This person has to deal with a lot more. And see, this is part of the reason why, like, when racism comes into play, I think a lot of times, there's deep-seated animosity toward it, specifically talk about black people, because I'm a black person. I can't talk about anybody else's experience, but I think that a lot of people don't like, especially when it comes down to black people, that no matter what we go through, like, we always find like the silver lining. And you know that a lot of us have to deal with a lot more adversity. We have to deal with a lot more struggles and trials and tribulations, and still somehow, you know, make make stuff happen. And some of these people have, you know, more privileges. They have more access to things, and they still don't even use their privilege and the access that they have to get ahead. And then when they see you getting ahead, then they feel like it's not fair. And it's like, but I had to work super hard to get there. So I just want you to understand, like, they jealous of you, and they don't want to see you go beyond what they feel like you should go beyond, because they're not willing to do the work so that they can also be just as good as you. But that was my message, y'all. Let me know how you feel about that in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate that. It's your girl K Divine. I'll see you later. Bye.